So the next person who's going to speak is my friend Luis Morago from Avaaz. If you don't know what Avaaz is, you should go home immediately and find out what Avaaz is. It's the world's largest online campaigning organization with 35 million members. They can get people on the streets anywhere in the world to protest in a matter of hours. So we're greatly privileged to have Luis Morago, the campaign director of Avaaz, here this evening. Over to you, Luis.
Sorry about that. I was just finishing one of my campaigns and we had to blast using our language. But anyway, today I'm going to give you just a little story that is the life of an ordinary citizen and Avaaz member in 5 minutes. And I'm going to do a role play. You may think that I'm one of those lazy activists, those who spend most of the day just signing useless petitions. We are called clicktivists.
Clicktivist.
But I just want you for 5 minutes to suspend judgment and give me a go, give me a try. Just like listen to me for 5 minutes and then you just judge me. Of course, I'm not one of those all real activists. I was too young at the time. But I tell you how I came across Avaaz. And it was May 2008, it was just like when the horrific cyclone Nargis hit Myanmar. And of course, I mean, all over the place in the news. And yeah, something that really shocked me and made me feel outraged was that the military regime was blocking 8 flights. And many of you, I'm sure that you were in the middle of that mess. And a friend of mine sent me an email saying, oh, you know these guys from Avaaz? Well, yeah, I mean, they're smart, they do some good stuff. And suddenly they are asking for money because they say that they are in touch with this network of monks. And even if there is a blockage of aid, but these monks have like a massive way of bringing some aid rapidly into the country. So they're asking for some money. So I gave just $10. I said, well, who is going to control where the money is? I mean, no guarantees who are these guys, but somehow I gave it a try. I risked that. And I think it was worth. I found out a few days later that it was $2 million raised in 5-6 days, and the money was going in. I don't know much of the details, but somehow we got reports that something in that very crucial stage where still the international agencies were on the border waiting to be in, there was kind of a smart, creative way of trying to find, and the money was with no real strings. So I said, well, good for Avaaz. I remain engaged, signing petitions, doing some stuff, but the second big moment was the Haiti earthquake. January 2010, and then I say, why don't we do something like Burma? What can Avaaz bring? Avaaz doesn't do normally any humanitarian fundraisers. There is not a humanitarian actor, but well, we learned from Burma that there is some kind of a moment to add some value. So I picked the phone, Avaaz number, office, say, well, why don't you do something about Haiti? We have so many members around the world, just let's do something. Oh, we are exploring, we are not humanitarian actors. Anyway, the following day I got an email saying, give $5 or $10, wherever you can, because we are in touch with a number of NGOs that can channel the money through local partners because we identified some gaps that could be filled in the short term. Again, my money was there with my credit card, and I saw almost 20,000 donations from all over the world in 4 or 5 days again, 1.3 million in aid that went channeled through big international NGOs for the guarantee that the money was going to be properly spent, ActionAid, Viva Rio in Brazil, Partners in Health, but then the money went straight to these local partners. And we got good reports. That the interesting thing about that is that I got another email from Avaaz saying, we haven't managed to spend all the money we've raised, but we have a great idea. We've identified some people that they want to do longer term empowerment of leaders in country, helping the displaced, helping the radio stations to make sure that people can know where the aid is coming and go. And I said, yes, use my money to do that. So very flexibly, the money went into new projects. On top of that, I joined the campaign of Avaaz and many other organizations calling from the debt cancellation. That was crucial, and we got it. So it was kind of a great combination of doing lots of stuff, I didn't leave my armchair, but still I was feeling very happy, and it cost me $10. The good thing about Avaaz, what I love as a member, is that it tackles any single issue that I'm concerned about. Could be the trafficking of boys and girls with some impact, pushing big chains of hotels like Hilton to sign code of conduct. I really care about whales and how they are disappearing in many places. So signing a petition against commercial whaling and then getting results is something that also inspires me. The model can work. Bangladesh, collapse of the big factory, putting this ad that we paid, members of Avaaz, we put like $2, $3, we put some ads in the Financial Times, and then boom, together with other civil society players, putting enough pressure to get some results. And not only globally, in Brazil, great anti-corruption legislation that was pushed by 2 million Brazilian members. Some of them are my friends, and it was like a 2-year process of making phone calls, signing petitions, going to the streets, working with parliamentarians. It was pretty amazing. I was in that one as well. I happened to be in Brussels. I joined these friends, a big stand, banning the pesticides that are killing our bees, a big thing for the European Union. But also, not only online. Some of my friends went to Bolivia to demonstrate, to save part of the Amazon that is in danger. Here in the UK, some people joined this event, but over 2,000 events across the world, 135 countries, people in the streets calling for a strong climate change treaty. That was in 2009, before the Copenhagen Climate Summit. I was in Spain, the Indignados, again, internet was helping me to go there and do some good stuff. This is about the Palestine Campaign. I'm going to start wrapping up. I know I don't have much time. And that is another aspect of Avaaz that I like. I remember donating just a bit of money to run independent polls in 4 European countries: Germany, France, Spain, and the UK, because the governments were saying, well, we are going to abstain possibly about the recognition of Palestine as an observer state in the UN. And we donated as members, and Avaaz ran the polls, commissioned the polls, and then showing that 80% of the citizens across Europe wanted a state of Palestine. So we put the pressure, and that happened. And the good thing is that the overwhelming victory that isolated the US, Canada, and others was recognized by people like Leila Chadid, General Delegate of Palestine to the European Union, in terms of the crucial role that public pressure in different moments played. I love the fact that Avaaz is sending me regular surveys about what is the direction the platform and the community should take. And I vote, and I give my opinions on corruption, economic policies, humanitarian issues. And not only that, last Monday, and this is really true, what I'm saying now, I woke up and I realized that something big was coming in Spain. I heard in the radio that the king of Spain was going to abdicate. I went to the platform, I created a petition myself, I wrote 3 paragraphs, put it out, and in 4 days I had 355 signatures in Spain. We were in the news, delivering the petition to 2 big political parties, and we are making lots of noise. And that was just like one single person triggering something. This is like, wow. So just to finalize with the last slide, it's what happens after the clicks, what matters, how we use that support. This is what can bring incredible change. And being here with you, my hope is that all these learnings, all these new tools, and this new wave of working with the technology, internet, using the best traditional tactics and strategies, combined with the best new methods, this is what is going to create that perfect storm of change. And I hope that the convergence of the humanitarian sector, the human rights sector, and the civil society will come and do something big. So we've just scratched the surface. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Luis. Okay, so this is an Ignite format. The idea, the purpose of this evening is to ignite some ideas in your mind about the subjects that we're talking about. Would you please turn to the person next to you and talk for 2 minutes about what ideas are beginning to emerge from these conversations? Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt. Let's come back together. People with the microphones.
I mean, I suppose the question that comes.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Is, are they long?
Yes, you can shout.
Or is it just?
Ladies and gentlemen, we're resuming the talk.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Paul Kurian. Yes. So, what are you talking about? Please.
I was just saying to Simon that, all the people who have access to Avaaz, which I believe is a great thing, and what Paul talked about. Then I was saying, from where I come from in India, there are 300 million people who have no access, not just to forget the internet or information, but are, over in a 4,000-year-old system and culture where they're deprived of any access to information and rights. What does this mean for them? And sort of, I know I'm sort of bringing something sort of, left side here now, but it is important to think about not only in India, in China. If you look at the west of China, sort of, we think of countries as homogeneous entities. Indonesia, Nigeria, there are lots of parts of the world where what we've been talking about all day today, it doesn't fit in neatly. And we do need to have those conversations.
Great, thanks, Aaron. Somebody else? What are you talking about? At the back there? Tegan.
Hi, I'd just like to add to what Aaron was saying, and I'd be interested to hear people's ideas on how the ideas that Paul and Luis were talking about there, which are very much sort of campaigning and drawing on the power of crowds from a public-facing perspective. For initiative like the Start Network, which is very much looking at a business-to-business sort of model, how that would work and sort of harnessing that crowdsourcing new way of working.
Interesting, thank you. Somebody else? What are you talking about? What were you talking about? This is meant to ignite your thinking. John, right here.
Well, I suppose.
I think we're recording this, so you need to speak into the microphone so we can remember what you say.
Well, one thing was, when does single-issue campaigning become political party? What does it represent? And I can imagine in the UK that very soon you would be having a government imposing an anti-lobbying bill, as very nearly happened a couple of months ago. But then if it was outward-facing, if it was campaigning to pressure governments to pass resilience bills, safer building codes, that sort of thing, that I can see that as being a plausible use of those sorts of techniques to advance the Start's agenda.
Interesting. Somebody else? Yes, please.
Sorry.
Oh, Amanda first, and then you'll be second. Go ahead.
Basically, what we were talking about was that the issues are not different, and the things like campaigning or the way that we want to work hasn't really changed. What has changed is the models that we use or don't use to be able to turn those into something else. And at the moment, we've got something that's incredibly powerful to reach more people in terms of technology. So we've got to embrace it, because obviously the more things change, the more they stay the same. But embrace what you've actually got now at this moment and what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know where the technology is going. And actually turn that to our advantage to do exactly the same thing that is proven to get to more people.
Okay, thanks. Please.
Yeah, it's just related to what the gentleman was just saying a minute ago about the role of NGOs as well. I mean, I can see one of the challenges that was raised by Rose is the shrinking space that is given to civil societies to do their work, which is, of course, about helping in a humanitarian crisis, but also to challenge power imbalances. So I can see that these solutions are solutions for fundraising, for instance, but not necessarily to fight that. So I wonder how we make sure that we keep that space to do our advocacy work.
Thank you. Anybody else? Francis and then Matt and then Sonia. Anybody else? We'll have 3 more and then we'll move on.
Thanks. I was struck, or we were struck by a sort of sense of gratitude that the power of this of Avaaz is in the hands of people like Luis. And I suddenly thought if Avaaz and the technology that exists to support what it does had been around in Germany in the 1930s, imagine what it would have done there. So it's just saying that it's in a sense it's a neutral thing, isn't it? That could be used either way. So I suppose we better grab it and use it before the other side does.
How do we speak above the noise?
Matt?
We were talking about the extent to which there's a shift from altruism in people's engagement with an issue to what it means for me, and as the world becomes increasingly smaller on most issues, on every issue, people understand it better, they're more aware of it, and so actually the extent of the source of why people are engaging on an issue, the fact that it's an altruistic issue may not be the core reason. It may be that what does it mean for me, and therefore how can we shift, whether we're talking about the platform model or that Paul was talking about, or Avaaz in terms of engaging activists, how can we in a sense move from what they are not just the cause of why they're clicking or engaging, but actually what it specifically means to them, and how it's going to affect their life if they engage, and how they can directly broker a relationship or action that improves their own lives.
And right behind you, Sonia.
We were talking about how emergencies are fundamentally a multiple denial of people's rights, and these kinds of campaign actions and platforms are such an incredibly powerful way of challenging the power structures that deny those rights, and bringing it back to some of the discourse from earlier today, that actually this humanitarian agenda and this shift that we're trying to look at is all about politics.
Fascinating. So thank you all for these initial round of comments. It's Rose, I think, put the case pretty clearly that disruption is coming, and Paul talked about platform business models and ways of helping people channel their energies rather than asking them to give us money. And Luis gave a very powerful example of how Avaaz is giving people an outlet so they feel like they can do something rather than write a check to a charity in response to a crisis that has already hit the news. This is a business model. Avaaz has a business model. It is delivering on a mission. It only has 100 staff, but 35 million people are affecting change. So that feels to me like it is an idea for the humanitarian sector, and I think Sonia is right and John as well to make connections there about what do we currently do that we think about, what do we call humanitarianism, and are there ways to have these business models work in the ways that we want. I'm not sure if I captured it well, but I think it's good enough for now. Let's move on.